Naomi Judd's story is one of both triumph and heartbreak, and it continues to leave an impact even after her passing. She was a woman who carried strength, talent, and determination, yet she also carried deep struggles that few could truly understand. Her daughter Winona Judd has recently spoken about her mother, breaking her silence more than 2 years after Naomi's sudden death in 2022. What Winona revealed was not only the deep pain of losing her mother but also the ongoing conflict between forgiveness, healing, and protecting her mother's legacy. Naomi was a tough woman, resilient and full of grit, but she was also human, and the pain she lived with became too heavy to bear. Naomi Judd was born on January 11, 1946, in Ashland, Kentucky. Her birth name was Diana Ellen Judd. She grew up in a modest, working-class family. Her father owned and operated a small gas station, while her mother earned a living as a cook on a riverboat that traveled the Ohio River. Life was not easy for Naomi as a child, but what shaped her even more was the loss of her younger brother, Brian, who died of leukemia in 1965 when he was just 17 years old. That tragedy left a deep wound in Naomi's heart and played a big role in her lifelong battle with sadness and depression. From a young age, she had to learn how to rely on herself, and that sense of survival stayed with her for the rest of her life. At just 17 years old, Naomi found herself pregnant. Her boyfriend at the time, Charles Jordan, abandoned her, leaving her alone and scared. Despite the challenges, she gave birth to her first daughter, Christina Claire Simonella, on May 30, 1964, only 2 weeks before she was supposed to graduate from high school. To provide her child with legal protection, Naomi married Michael Simonella, and Christina was given his last name. Christina later became known to the world as Winona Judd, the stage name under which she would rise to fame. Naomi's marriage to Michael did not last, and by 1972 they divorced. Naomi was left to raise Winona and her younger daughter, Ashley Judd, by herself. Life was far from easy for Naomi and her daughters. During the 1970s, she moved with them to California, where they experienced real poverty. At times, they had no stable home and were forced to live out of an old car. Naomi worked any job she could find, store clerk, hospital receptionist, and other small roles, just to put food on the table. Eventually, she decided to pursue nursing, enrolling in a program in Berea, Kentucky. She managed to earn her nursing license while continuing to raise her girls as a single mother. It was a heavy burden, but Naomi was determined. She once said that being fired, forgotten, and abandoned as a single mother only made her more resolved to never give up. Nursing gave her the means to support Winona and Ashley, but her heart longed for something greater. Music had always been Naomi's true passion. She adored the sounds of country and gospel, listening to artists like Loretta Lynn and Tammy Wynette. Music was in her soul, and she dreamed of sharing it with the world. By the late 1970s, she had taught herself to play guitar and began writing her own songs. In 1979, Naomi decided to take a leap of faith. She moved with Winona, who was 15 at the time, to Tennessee. They rented a small, modest house outside of Nashville and began recording homemade demos on a cassette recorder. No one could have imagined that these simple beginnings would soon turn into a legendary music career. Determined to find a way into the industry, Naomi sent out those demo tapes to every record label she could think of. She was desperate, hopeful, and stubborn enough not to give up. One of the recordings featured Winona's strong voice paired with Naomi's guitar playing. That tape caught the attention of an executive at RCA Records, who invited the mother and daughter duo to audition. Their natural chemistry and raw talent were undeniable, and in 1983, Naomi and Winona were officially signed as recording artists. From there, the Judds became one of the most celebrated country music duos of the 1980s. Their sound was unique, blending traditional country with harmonies that felt timeless and authentic. Naomi's vision, determination, and belief in herself and her daughter created a career that neither of them could have dreamed of during the hard years of struggle. But behind the success, Naomi was still fighting private battles. Though the world saw her as strong, confident, and successful, Naomi was living with treatment-resistant depression and anxiety, illnesses that never fully left her alone. fame did not erase the shadows she carried. She gave so much of herself to her family, to her fans, and to her music, but deep inside, she often felt consumed by pain. Winona would later describe her mother as both tough and fragile, a woman who carried everything for everyone but could not always carry her own hurt. Naomi Judd's story is both inspiring and tragic. She went from being a teenage mother abandoned by the father of her child, to a woman raising 2 girls alone in poverty, to a nurse, and then to a world-famous singer who achieved the American dream. Yet even with all of her success, she could not escape the mental health struggles that haunted her for decades. Her life reminds us that behind the smiles and stage lights, people can still be fighting invisible battles. Her passing in 2022 shocked fans, friends, and family around the world. Winona Judd, her daughter and longtime singing partner, remained silent for over 2 years before finally opening up about her grief. Winona's words revealed not just sorrow, but the complicated emotions of losing someone who was both a mother and a partner in music. She spoke about wrestling with forgiveness, about finding a way to move forward, and about protecting the powerful legacy Naomi left behind. Naomi's journey is more than just a story about fame and music. It is a reminder of resilience, survival, love, and the hidden struggles people face even when they appear to be strong. Her legacy lives on in the music she created, in the lives she touched, and in the daughters she raised against all odds. This was the moment that changed everything for them, the turning point that took a struggling single-parent family and turned them into a name the whole music world noticed. The legacy they built through hard work, tears, and sheer determination became something Winona embraced not only in music but in the way mother and daughter stepped onto their first big stage together as the Judds. Their path to becoming the Judds began in earnest in April 1984 when they released their debut album, Why Not Me? The record exploded onto the country scene. The title song hit #1 on the Billboard Country chart, and the duo won a Grammy the next year for Best Country Performance by a Duo or Group. Between 1984 and 1991, the Judds collected a remarkable string of successes. They scored 14 #1 singles, including songs that became classics, Mama He's Crazy, Girls Night Out, Love Is Alive, Grandpa Tell Me About the Good Old Days, and Love Can Build a Bridge. Their sound mixed Appalachian folk and traditional country with raw, emotional 2-part harmonies, giving them a unique voice that stood out in the crowded field of 1980s country music. In less than 10 years they sold over 20 million albums around the world and won 5 Grammy Awards, 9 Country Music Association Awards, and 7 Academy of Country Music Awards. They became the first female duo to have such a widespread impact on country music, admired both for their artistry and for the family story they represented. Naomi was more than the voice behind the harmony. She ran their schedule, managed their image, and built the Judds into a symbol of resilience for Southern women. As their fame grew, though, tensions rose between Naomi and Winona. As Winona grew into adulthood, she wanted to find and express her own musical identity. Naomi, protective and used to making the decisions, continued to control much of the creative direction and public representation. Behind the scenes, mother and daughter often argued about song choices, arrangements, wardrobe, and how to answer the press. Naomi later admitted in a 1995 interview that being a single mother had made her too strict. She thought control would protect her daughter, but she recognized she had made mistakes. Even with these private struggles, the Judds kept topping the charts, collecting awards, and appearing on national television shows like The Tonight Show and Oprah. Their rise from poverty to fame became a cultural story many people related to. Billboard called them more than a band, saying they were a piece of the American story. In October 1990, Naomi announced she would retire from performing after being diagnosed with hepatitis C, which was a serious illness at the time. The duo's final planned performance was in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, in December 1991. That night, standing on stage and singing Love Can Build a Bridge for the last time as a full-time act, Naomi wept as she sang the final line. Her retirement didn't just close one chapter in their musical career, it forced Winona into a new phase of life on her own. In 1992, Winona launched a solo career with the album titled Winona, stepping into independence that would shape the next 3 decades of her life. Naomi stayed involved behind the scenes, quietly advising and occasionally appearing at big events. They reunited for special tours in 1999 and again in 2010. Their relationship continued to have long stretches of tension and the occasional public reconciliation. In her 2011 memoir, Naomi wrote that sometimes she felt as if they were two parts of one soul, born into different bodies, which meant collision was almost inevitable. Even when their musical voices clashed, the mother-daughter bond remained the thread fans loved, keeping the Judds alive in the public imagination. After decades of highs and lows, Naomi and Winona plan a final return as a tribute to close their story together. Nobody expected that the day meant to honor Naomi would instead mark the end of her life. On April 30, 2022, the country music world was stunned when Naomi Judd died at age 76, just one day before she and Winona were to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. The news was confirmed that evening by Winona and Naomi's other daughter, Ashley, in a statement to the Associated Press. They said, "We lost our beautiful mother to the disease of mental illness. We are shattered. We are navigating profound grief." It was later made public that Naomi had died by suicide at her home in Franklin, Tennessee, and that her husband, Larry Strickland, was the person who found her. Naomi had a long history of severe depression. After stepping away from full-time performance in 1991 because of hepatitis C, she later announced the illness had gone into remission thanks to advances in treatment. Even so, she continued to struggle with mental health for many years. In interviews after 2017, she often avoided press, declined interviews, and refused long reunion tours. She spoke about ongoing battles with bipolar disorder, panic attacks, and clinical depression, describing how some mornings she woke up and had to fight the urge to hurt herself. Side effects from medication sometimes made her condition worse. Through all of this, Naomi's public image as a strong performer and devoted mother hid the private pain she carried. The story of the Judds is therefore bittersweet. It is the tale of an incredible musical rise from humble beginnings, a mother's fierce determination to protect and guide her children, and a daughter's emergence into her own voice, but it is also a story shadowed by mental illness and family conflict. Their music, their awards, and their public successes are part of their legacy, but so is the reminder that fame and achievement do not always heal inner wounds. Fans remember the joy and comfort the Judds songs brought, and they also mourn the loss of a life weighed down by struggles that many people know all too well. This was the moment that changed everything for them, the turning point that transformed a struggling single-parent family into a name that shook the entire music industry. The legacy built through years of effort, tears, and determination was something Winona carried proudly, not only in the music itself but also in the way she and her mother stepped onto their first big stage together under the name The Judds. Their real breakthrough came in April 1984 with the release of their debut album Why Not Me. The record turned them into a sensation overnight. Its title track soared to #1 on the Billboard Country chart, and the duo won the Grammy Award the following year for Best Country Performance by a Duo or Group. Over the next 7 years, the Judds scored an incredible 14 #1 singles, including Mama, He's Crazy, Girls Night Out, Love Is Alive, Grandpa, Tell Me About the Good Old Days, and Love Can Build a Bridge. Their music blended Appalachian folk with traditional country, and their two-part harmonies gave them a style that was instantly recognizable. In less than a decade, the Judds sold more than 20 million albums worldwide. They won 5 Grammy Awards, 9 Country Music Association Awards, and 7 Academy of Country Music Awards. No female duo had ever reached such heights before, and they became not just musical icons but cultural ones as well. Naomi wasn't only a singer, she managed the tour schedules, crafted their image, and shaped the Judds into a brand that symbolized the resilience of Southern women. But with success came conflict. As Winona grew older and sought her own artistic identity, Naomi continued to oversee every detail, from songs and arrangements to costumes and interviews. Behind the scenes, mother and daughter clashed often. Naomi later admitted in a 1995 interview that she had been too hard on her daughter, believing control was the same as protection. Still, their arguments never stopped them from climbing the charts, collecting awards, and appearing on major national shows like The Tonight Show and Oprah. Their story of rising from poverty to stardom was so powerful that Billboard magazine once wrote, "The Judds are not just music. They are the American story." In October 1990, everything shifted again. Naomi revealed that she had been diagnosed with hepatitis C, a serious and often life-threatening disease at the time. She announced her retirement from performing, and the duo's final official concert was held in December 1991 in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. As Naomi sang the last lines of "Love Can Build a Bridge," tears rolled down her face. It was a goodbye to the fans, and to a chapter of her life that had defined her and Winona for nearly a decade. Her retirement ended the duo's career but opened the door for Winona to step into independence. In 1992, she launched her solo career with the album Winona, beginning a journey that would span decades. Naomi stayed involved in the background, quietly advising her daughter and joining her for reunion tours in 1999 and 2010. Their personal relationship, however, remained rocky, marked by long periods of distance, emotional tension, and occasional reconciliation. Naomi once wrote in her 2011 memoir, "Sometimes I think we are two parts of one soul, born into two different bodies. We couldn't avoid collision." That bond, however complicated, was what kept fans connected to the Judds story. After years of ups and downs, Naomi and Winona planned one final return, a closing chapter meant to celebrate their journey. But no one could have imagined how fate would intervene. On April 30, 2022, the country music world was devastated by the news that Naomi Judd had died at age 76, just one day before she and Winona were to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. That evening, Winona and her sister Ashley released a statement, "We lost our beautiful mother to the disease of mental illness. We are shattered. We are navigating profound grief." It was later revealed that Naomi had died by suicide at her home in Franklin, Tennessee. Her husband, Larry Strickland, was the one who discovered her. Though the world knew Naomi as strong and determined, she had battled depression for decades. After retiring in 1991 because of hepatitis C, she later announced that the illness had gone into remission thanks to new treatments. But remission didn't erase her mental health struggles. She openly spoke about living with bipolar disorder, panic attacks, and severe depression. In one interview, she described her mornings as waking up and having to fight the urge not to hurt herself. On top of that, the side effects from her medications often made her condition worse. In the last years of her life, Naomi withdrew more and more from the spotlight. After 2017, she avoided most press events, declined interviews, and turned down opportunities for long reunion tours. Fans noticed her absence, but few knew the full depth of her suffering. Naomi Judd's life story is one of triumph mixed with tragedy. She went from being a poor single mother living in a car with her daughters to becoming part of one of the most successful acts in country music history. She built a career that broke barriers for women in the industry and inspired millions with her music. But behind the fame and awards, she carried a private pain that never fully went away. Her death was heartbreaking, but her legacy endures. The songs she sang with Winona remain timeless, capturing both the struggles and the joys of life. For fans, the Judds represent more than music, they represent perseverance, love, and the complicated but unbreakable bond between a mother and daughter. From someone who had once fallen into silence, Winona Judd began stepping back into the light. It was not just about returning to the stage as a singer, but about carrying her mother's memory into every note and every performance. From those quiet, personal efforts, a new chapter unfolded in her life. Winona was no longer performing only for herself, she was determined to honor the promises left behind by Naomi Judd. The music they once shared, the lessons Naomi passed down, and the legacy of the Judds became Winona's mission to preserve and expand. After Naomi's passing, Winona faced the difficult choice of what to do with the tour that she and her mother had planned. She could have canceled it, but instead she decided to keep it alive, not just for herself but as a tribute to Naomi. Winona confirmed that the final Judds tour would go on, and in fact, she expanded it. She invited a wide range of guest performers, some of the most influential women in country music, including Brandi Carlile, Faith Hill, Martina McBride, and Little Big Town. The tour stretched through the end of 2023 with more than 25 shows across major U.S. cities. Each concert was more than a performance, it was a night of remembrance. Fans were shown behind-the-scenes clips, archival footage, and powerful renditions of Judd's classics like Mama, He's Crazy, Why Not Me, and Love Can Build a Bridge. The most meaningful stop on the tour was at the Murphy Center in Tennessee, the same venue where Naomi and Winona had given their farewell concert in 1991 when Naomi retired due to illness. This concert, titled Love Is Alive, was recorded and later broadcast on CMT. It was also released as a documentary, Between Hell and Hallelujah, on Paramount+, where it reached millions of viewers. Financially, the tour was a success, grossing over $20 million, but more importantly, it confirmed that Winona was still one of the most beloved live performers in traditional country music. Offstage, Winona's life took another meaningful turn. In 2022, when her daughter Grace Kelly faced legal challenges and entered rehabilitation, Winona stepped in to raise her granddaughter, Kalia. Taking custody of the little girl brought new purpose to her days. On social media, Winona often shared moments of their life together on the farm, gardening, cooking, tending horses, and laughing side by side. She openly admitted, "Kalia saved me from a terrible year. That little girl gives me a reason to wake up every morning." Through her role as grandmother and guardian, Winona found a sense of healing that balanced her grief. By 2024, Winona also began using her voice to advocate for mental health awareness. Though she did not create her own foundation, she supported nonprofit organizations and funded national campaigns encouraging women to speak openly about depression and its warning signs. At a Nashville seminar hosted by the Country Music Association, Winona addressed the audience with heartbreaking honesty, "I'm not a doctor. I'm just a daughter who tried to stop her mom from dying. I couldn't. Now I'll do whatever I can to stop it from happening to someone else." Her words reflected the depth of her pain, but also the courage to use that pain to help others. In June 2025, Winona launched the Greatest Hits Tour, with scheduled shows in 20 cities across the US and Canada. She also joined Little Big Town on their summer tour, marking a collaboration that bridged two generations of country music. Her set lists now feature not only Judd's favorites but also her biggest solo hits like No One Else on Earth, I Saw the Light, and To Be Loved by You. Winona described this new era simply, "I no longer sing for myself. I sing for my mother. I sing for those standing at the edge, not able to speak." Her authenticity drew widespread praise. Billboard called Winona a guardian of tradition and a pioneer of emotional truth. Rolling Stone observed, "Winona turns grief into art and makes it breathe through honesty." The conversation among critics and fans shifted from whether she would keep performing to how far she could carry her mother's legacy while carving her own path forward. Though Winona and her sister Ashley have not announced any long-term projects together, they have appeared side by side at community events. They rarely speak publicly about Naomi, but when they do, they describe her not in the past tense, but as a presence still guiding them. That quiet acknowledgement, recognizing Naomi in everything they continue to do, may be the truest form of legacy. Through music, honesty, and courage, Winona has survived the devastating loss of her mother. She has turned grief into a force of connection and hope, reminding audiences that even in tragedy, love can endure and inspire. Her journey shows how deeply a mother's influence can shape a daughter's path, even after she is gone. And in keeping Naomi's voice alive through song and memory, Winona has ensured that the Judd story will never truly end. If Winona's story makes you think of someone you love, don't wait. Reach out. Call them. Share your words before it's too late. Because sometimes, the smallest gesture of love and care can make the difference that saves a life. And if you believe emotional strength can change someone's world, share the story so others may also be reminded. Your voice, like Winona's, might be the light someone else needs.